Coming up next on Columbus Connections, it is February and the community is coming alive with great events and activities for you to do. Stay tuned. Welcome to Columbus Connections. I am your host, David Britt, and as you know, it is now February, Black History Month, and during that month, a lot of great things happen in the community and for the community. Now, it's not just Black History Month, being that we're African Americans. This is American History Month. It's about coming together in a segment of the community that has worked and been through things and how that benefits the entire community. I have with me former Mayor Bob Portisheff. Now, he's going to talk to us about the Black History Breakfast. Now, Mayor Portisheff, first of all, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Now, to some people who may be new to the community or who may not know you, they may look at you and say, what are you doing up here talking about the Black History Breakfast?
Well, and thank you, that's very good, and I'm sure that there are people that are thinking that, but first of all, you cannot ever separate American history without Black history. So whether it's white or black, we're all part of American history. And the reason I believe in honoring the black community is people always think about slavery and they think about the Civil War and the aftermath of the Civil War. But with Black history, we try to show what a human being can do when they've been downtrodden, when they've been subjugated, and how people can pull themselves up and be somebody. And that's what Black history is all about, because we're intertwined. And I think it's important not only to recognize Black history, but recognize Hispanic and Jewish and everything else. And we do that. But I think the black population has always had a significant impact on the United States because, remember, they came here in bondage. And so to me, it's just absolutely part of my life to show what people can do when they've been subjugated, as I said, and now you look at the history and what they've accomplished, the black people, for this country. And here in our community, we have the Isaiah Hugleys, we have the Judge Allens, we have the Evelyn Turner Pughs, and I can go on and on and on and talk about some of the great. Bob Wright. Mm-hmm. I mean, for heaven's sake, he's the chairman of the Smithsonian Black History Museum Commission.
It's interesting that you bring up museums, because of course, African American history, of course, did not start with slavery. And even in our own museum in Columbus, we have, a lot of times we'll have African art and art from West Africa and things that show our historic standpoint from prior to slavery and the slave trade up until now.
You're absolutely correct. Yeah. It goes back and it can bring tradition and to show exactly what's going on so that people can understand, you know, basically we're intertwined.
Yeah.
And when you start demeaning one, you demean yourself. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
When all your life is based upon trying to subjugate other people and demean them and refuse to understand their great history and the luxury of what they've brought to our country, then all you're doing is demeaning yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Now tell me about the Black History Breakfast.
Well, we're having a Black History Breakfast as we do every year. I'm honored to be the co-chairman again. People such as Carl Douglas are very much involved. Congressman Bishop has been just absolutely instrumental. He's taken over from the former Congressman Matt Collins. And it's interesting to know that prior to Congressman Bishop, the two Congress people that were involved were white because they understood the importance of black history. And of course, Miss Bishop, who is the clerk of the municipal court, has been instrumental in working with us, and you have some great people involved, Chamber of Commerce and other great corporations. And so it's going to be a wonderful affair. It's on the 19th. It starts at 7 o'clock at the Trade Center. We're reaching out to young people.
7 a.m., 7 in the morning.
7 a.m. Thank you for reminding me about that ungodly hour. But,
right.
But it's going to be great.
Right.
Good speaker, and I'm proud to be part of it.
Absolutely. And we've had several notable speakers in prior years. A lot of great people have come through and given great speeches, and it's always a good time just for camaraderie,
Sure.
a good time of coming
Absolutely.
together.
Former Secretary of the Army at one time, and Senator Barack Obama, who has been our president for twice, was here, and I told him, and Congressman Bishop can verify that because he was there, and you'll see a picture of me and President Obama signing a book as a senator at that time, and Congressman Bishop, and I told him, I said, your remarks were excellent. One of these days, you're going to be president. Mm-hmm. And then I wrote him a letter, which he never responded to, when I said, well, I didn't realize it would be so quick.
Now, when we hear Black History Breakfast, and even when we hear Obama, let's be honest, that may alienate and polarize some people, but at this breakfast, it's so motivational. It's so great for anybody from any walk of life, for any political standpoint, any racial standpoint, to see just the coming together of great citizens in our city.
You're absolutely correct. And I remind people when they talk about these things, I'm not going to talk about religion as such, but if you go back into the Hebrew, Hebraic, and Christian tradition, and you go back to Micah, and when he says, what's expected of you, O man, and that's to do justice and love mercy and walk humbly with God. And how can you do justice if you demean other people? And of course, Christ, when he was asked by a lawyer, what do you need? How do I get into heaven? He said, well, thou shalt love thy God with all thy heart, soul, and mind. That's the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it. Love thy neighbor. And he never differentiated or put an adjective, who your neighbor is. And then the parable that he used should bring to mind to everybody that professes any type of religion, really. Your neighbor was a Samaritan, a despised group, who helped the Jewish person who was beaten and robbed. And then he told the innkeeper, if there's money that I owe you, let me know, I'll be coming back. Who is your neighbor? And the lawyer said, the Samaritan. And that's the point I'm trying to make. We're all neighbors. We're all God's children. And for heaven's sake, if you profess some degree of religiosity, you cannot demean. You've got to honor all peoples. And this is a chance to honor the Black community.
Absolutely, most definitely. Now, you were mayor at a time when there was some dark days and some light days, and there was some unrest. And with your position and how you work with the African American community and with the breakfast, how do you see race relations progressing? And where do you think we can go?
It's an interesting point you made. Yes, we had a murder. A Black man was killed. And I was in New York for a Vietnam reunion with my wife, and I was called by Carmen Caveza and Bob Wright and Colonel Jim Jackson and said, here's what happened. And so Stacy and I cut our visit short, flew down, met with the family, and then we organized breakfast for members of the Black and the white community, the leadership. And we were able to point out that we're not going to demonstrate, we're not going to scream and shout, we're not going to destroy anything. We're going to work together and see to it that justice is done. Whether justice was done, in my opinion, I'm not satisfied with it necessarily, but the fact is people trusted us. And so we got together and we were able to calm, and you didn't see destruction and horror going on in this city because people got together, Black and white, Christian, Jew, Islamic, and said, here's the way we're going to move forward on this thing. And we did. We put our money where our mouth was. It's easy to talk, but by God, people are going to judge you not by your mouth, but what you're willing to do. In other words, if you're going to talk the talk, somebody better walk the walk or walk the talk. And that's what we did. And yes, things were calm. And then, of course, we went on and were able to get Brack settled and got the armor and a whole host of things. Why? Because this is basically a good city. Now, do we have racism in this city? To a certain extent, we do. We have pockets. But has the city moved forward? And yes, with the mayors, it started with Mayor Bobby Peters, Judge Peters, when he had the diversity, and I asked if we can put unity and diversity, and now Mayor Tomlinson has put in economic development, et cetera, as part of it. And so you see, we address these issues, we meet them head on. And that's the way it should be. You cannot hide your head in the sand as an ostrich or pull it in as a turtle. If there are problems, you've got to address them. Because if you don't address them, they're going to move like a cancer and eat you up. So be honest, address what you know exists, and move on.
Gotcha.
And that's what this city has done and is doing, because it's never an ending statement. I mean, this breakfast is not going to cure anything. It's going to alleviate, it's going to show what our neighbors are doing, but we've got to do it constantly. You can't forget it and set that, oh yeah, everything is hunky-dory. No, everything is not hunky-dory, but it's good compared to what it has been in the past.
Gotcha. And on the breakfast, who's the speaker this year?
It's a congresswoman, and unfortunately,
Dr.
my mind is an absolute.
Val Deming.
Is that who it? Yes, it is.
I believe.
Yeah.
What do you know about her?
I don't know much about her, but when Congressman Bishop says she'll be a good speaker, she'll bring a great message, I trust him. I trust him implicitly.
Yeah, yeah. What can people look forward to coming to the breakfast? Besides, of course, breakfast. But what can people look forward to in that environment, and what's it like?
That's a good question. To me, it's networking, talking to people. Young people especially will learn what it's all about, what their history is if they're black, or what if they're white young students, they're going to learn, hey, here's the history of my neighbor in one aspect of it. So you network, you'll have a good meal, you'll hear a great speaker, you'll meet some of the leadership, and you'll see people that care about you, because otherwise they wouldn't be there.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, people that care about you, regardless
Absolutely.
of race, economics, religious background. People from your community who care about you.
Because we're all neighbors.
Yeah, yeah. Now, what goes into putting this together? I imagine, does it get easier as the years progress, or is it still?
It's always the same. You've got to put work into it. And you've got to reach out to the community. You've got to reach out to the corporation. The Chamber of Commerce is on board. Mm-hmm. Brian Anderson is absolutely fully committed. They will have a table. They've committed over $1,000. And so it's not sitting back, well, here's what we did last year, and it was great. And so, we can, no, it's constant push every year. If it's going to be a success, you have to work on it.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah. And you guys are always successful in what you do. You always push and do great things. Tell us again when it is going to be and what time it'll be.
It's on President's Day. It's at 7 o'clock on the 19th of February. And excuse me, it'll start at 7 o'clock in the morning at the Trade Center. There'll be awards given to various members of the community.
That's right. They usually give out about 3 community awards, right?
Absolutely. And to people that deserve them.
Absolutely.
I think Dr. Henry Cook was one of the first recipients of our award.
Yeah, yeah. Great event to come out to, great reason to support. Y'all make sure you come out there. We'll see you there. Hold on, do not go anywhere, because next we're going to be talking about mental health in children. Stay tuned.
Bicycles are fun at any age. Just remember the rules of the road when you're out enjoying a bike ride. And motorists, when you're sharing the road with cyclists, use caution and give at least 3 feet when passing. Bicycles are safe, fun, and sensible. When you ride, be visible, be predictable, and be alert. You'll have a safe ride and a great time. Let's get there together, Georgia. A message from the Governor's Office of Highway Safety and Georgia Bikes.
I am a teenager.
I am online.
I enjoy sharing thoughts.
Music. Videos.
Ideas. Information.
I will not
I will not be a victim to threats.
to stalking.
To soliciting.
To predators.
I will be responsible.
I will be careful.
I will be honest.
I will be smarter. I would get my parents involved.
I will protect myself.
I will be safe.
I am a teenager.
And I
And I
Will not.
be bullied.
Man, I wish the city would fix these darn potholes. Someone needs to report this.
Has this ever happened to you and you didn't know who to call? It's simple. Dial 311 or 706-653-4000. Columbus 311 Citizen Service Center. Our goal is to provide complete, accurate, and timely information to citizens and employees regarding complaints, inquiries, and requests for information. Columbus 311 Citizen Service Center, your direct link to city service.
Welcome back to Columbus Connections. Now we are going to talk about something that doesn't always get talked about, but really needs to be talked about because it's something that we are all dealing with, and that's mental health. But that's a whole series of conversations right there by itself. So right now we're looking at mental health in children, and there is an event that's going to be going on to talk about that and just bring that out and start that discussion. It's Silence the Shame. And it's being done by a great couple of organizations, but primarily by Dr. Dolores Tarver, and also have Miss Shannon Chambers here with Jack and Jill. She's going to talk about some of the organizations that came together to bring this event to you. Welcome, ladies.
Hey, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for putting on an event like this. Now, it's called Silence the Shame. When will it be?
Yes, it is Saturday, February the 17th, and it is going to be from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. at South Girard School in Phoenix City.
In Phoenix City. And it's going to be free.
It is free and open to the public.
Free and open to the public, and that's who we really need to get there.
Absolutely.
Why is this so important, in your opinion?
Well, as you alluded to earlier, mental health is one of those things that people really are not comfortable addressing. In our families, we don't talk about it. We don't educate our youth about mental health. There's a lot of shame. We'll go to our doctors, we'll see medical providers, and we will talk about the physical symptoms, but we really don't like addressing the mental health symptoms because it makes us feel like we're weak or that something is wrong with us. There's a lot of stigma, this use of crazy, when we talk about mental health. And so often people are not educated about what mental health is, so they stay away from things they're uncomfortable with. So that's why, one of the reasons why this is very, very important. Columbus Metropolitan Alumni Chapter and our partner Jack and Jill here, as well as the Lambda Mu Nu Psi fraternity of Omega Psi Phi and Support Teen Youth, we're all working together because we have that common goal of addressing our youth, and in particular for this program, the mental health of our youth, because you cannot talk about youth if you don't talk about our mental health.
Right. What can people expect when they come to the event?
So we have a great setup. First of all, let me just say that it is for pre-K, so 4-year-olds through 12th grade. So we have a large lineup of events, including workshops from licensed mental health providers that are going to provide education about bullying, cyberbullying, anxiety, depression, substance abuse, anger. A lot of the things that our young people deal with may not necessarily know the words to describe.
Yeah, it's just called bad.
Absolutely, absolutely.
They're just acting out.
If you ask, oftentimes even educators will say, our kids are just bad. What is going on with our kids now? We need to do something with them. But the truth is, we don't understand what's going on with them. One, because we haven't asked them, but two, because we don't know what's going on at home with them. A lot of our young people are raising themselves. They get themselves up in the morning. They have to worry about getting themselves fed and dressed into school. That's a lot of responsibility to put on a young person. They may be taking care of other siblings in their home. And so when we start talking about this kind of programming, we really want to look at, our young people have risk factors? And yes, the answer is yes. A lot of times we feel like young people don't go through anything. They don't have any problems, they don't have any issues, and we want to demystify that because that's simply not true. Young people experience anxiety. You don't have to be 40 years old and have gone through unemployment to experience anxiety. Sometimes it's biological. Sometimes our kids, it's passed on to them by other family members. But again, we're not talking about that. So our kids don't know their risk factors. So part of our programming is going to be about providing education. What is mental health? What is mental illness? How do I know when it's not just grief that's going to pass in a few weeks maybe, to where it's more clinical depression where I haven't been getting out of the bed for weeks. I'm irritable. I'm moody. My grades are dropping. So part of it absolutely is that piece where we get to tell our young people, this is how you know when you're not okay. And as my soror said earlier, it's okay to not be okay.
It's okay to not be okay.
So our goal is not to tell you that you have to be okay and happy and joyful all the time. It's to let you know that when you're not feeling okay, we got support for you. And so another part of the program is, here's who you can come see when you're not okay. And a lot of times, our young people are not exposed to mental health providers. Most of us probably didn't meet a mental health provider until we were grown. And oftentimes, when we do meet mental health providers, it's because somebody has made us go. So we want to talk about mental health being preventive, just like we do about physical health. Right? So we say, hey, be physically active because that will stop you from having these illnesses. Eat healthy, because it will stop you from having diabetes. We
wanna
never
have
say.
mental
Absolutely,
exercise. You know what I just
absolutely.
realized? You are a doctor of psychology, and I have you sitting on the couch. That is so cool, right? I'm gonna say this. Show this moment.
But it's actually funny that you say that, because a lot of people think this is what therapy is. It's I'm
and
sitting on the couch
that's
talking
what
about my mom.
It may have been having anything like that, but there's so many stigmas around that. But the truth is, we just want to get to the point where we are openly speaking about being healthy mentally.
Absolutely.
Ms. Chambers, you're with Jack and Jill, and you all work with young adults and the youth. Tell us about Jack and Jill, and tell us about why you all partnered for this event.
Yes. So we here in Columbus, Georgia, we're led by our president, Audrey Tillman, and we also have our regional director here, Cornisha Brown. But Jack and Jill of America, it is a membership organization of mothers from children ranging from 2 to 19, and we're dedicated to nurturing children, African American children, to be our leaders. So one of our national initiatives is silencing the shame of mental illness. Many of our children in the community, they have these mental illness, just like Dr. Tarver said, they have depression. They deal with bullying and things at school, and we want to dismantle this stigma in our community. So us and Jack and Jill, we believe in our children. We believe in their health, their physical health, as well as their mental health.
Right.
So when this partnership came to us, we jumped all over it because we care about our children, and that's what our organization is about.
Yes, and some of the stigmas that go along with mental health, and back me up if I start straying.
I got you.
It's not something, of course poverty can lead to more issues, but it's not just poor youth, it's not just, it's not economic, it's not racial, it's just, what is it?
Absolutely. There are a lot of factors that contribute to mental health. Environment is what you were alluding to, what goes around us. So yes, I'm more likely to have mental illness if I don't have resources, basic needs met in my household.
Right.
So if I have to worry about food, clothing, and shelter, then yes, I'm going to be at higher risk for mental illness than perhaps someone that isn't. But that's not the only factor, and that's not always necessarily true. Heredity plays a huge part in that. The things we don't want to talk about in our families. Mama had schizophrenia. Now, nobody is going to call it schizophrenia. What they're going to say is mama had a nervous breakdown and she had to go away to the hospital for a little while. But why that's important is because this age of young people, they're at risk. If they're going to have a psychotic break, they're falling within this age range often for the first time they experience psychotic symptoms. But if I don't know what a psychotic symptom is, or that grandma had risk factors, I won't know to be on the lookout for that. Also, if I have a family history of addiction, which is something we also want, hey, I got a drunk uncle in my family, but there is a heredity that comes along with having substance abuse issues too. So if I'm at higher risk for addiction potential, then I need to know that. I need to know that most people in my family are alcoholics, so it's probably not a good idea for me to drink, because the likelihood that I'm going to get addicted is higher because I have this family predisposition.
Right. And you have some people who grew up without a mother, without a father,
Absolutely.
who don't know that whole part of their tree, and have no
Absolutely.
idea what they're
Absolutely.
susceptible to.
Absolutely.
That's right.
And that's one of the things that we're addressing also at the workshop. In addition to, I tell kids, hey, here's what I'd like for you not to do, but it's also incumbent upon me to tell them, here's what you can do instead.
Exactly.
And so we have Carlos Moffitt from Body by Design. He's going to be showing how physical health can be used to manage mental illness. And then we also have our yoga instructors from Art of Yoga that are coming to talk about how to calm the mind when you're anxious, when you're worried, when you're stressed out. How to be able to deal with that without having to go to smoke marijuana or go get something to drink or pop pills, which has become very common for our young people too. They're taking a lot of things that are prescribed to their parents, slipping them out of the medicine cabinet. The parents aren't counting pills, so you don't know your child is at school getting through their day using a narcotic or a stimulant, and you have no idea. And they don't know that, hey, this is some high risk potential that you have here for a later mental health problem.
Gotcha. And
Absolutely.
another thing that you talked about was anger.
Yes. Yes.
How big is that as far as an issue that we deal with our youth?
That is a good question. A lot of times with young people, you may not see the vegetative signs of depression. So the laying around, the not feeling like doing anything, you may see it manifest in anger. We call anger depression turned inward. So
Okay.
I'm not doing well, but instead of me saying, hey, I don't feel good, I feel sad, I might be throwing stuff, kicking stuff, cursing you out, yelling at you, mood swings all erratic. One moment I might be fine, the next moment I might be all upset, and you're thinking, bad. Bad, and you need to learn how to be respectful. But why are you so angry? That's the question that we need to be asking our young people. We don't come into this world angry.
That's right.
Anger is learned, and anger is one of those emotions that we call a secondary emotion. So there's always something underneath it. It's our job to teach our young people what's underneath that anger. Anger also serves the purpose of keeping people away. So maybe I'm being abused, and I don't want people touching me.
Right.
So I'm going to be angry because that reduces the likelihood that somebody's
It's
going
a
to prey
defense
on me.
mechanism.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Which, again, there's nothing wrong with having defense mechanisms. Let's just teach you some healthy ones. And let's also teach you that it's okay to tell people, hey, somebody is doing some stuff to me that's not okay, which is also something we don't talk about in our families. This history of incest or abuse that occurs in families, there's a lot of shame around that. And so our young people don't feel like they can tell anybody they're being abused.
And we don't want them to be ashamed to speak up and speak out about it, because that's when you can start receiving help that they need for a healthier mental relationship in their home, in their school, or in their environment.
Absolutely. Tell me again, when is this event going to be? Where is it going to be? What time?
Silence the Shame. It is going to be Saturday, February the 17th. It starts at 10 a.m. It ends at 1 p.m. We are providing free lunch and snacks, so they will be well covered throughout their day. And it is going to be at South Girard School in Phoenix City. Pre-K through 12th grade, we're encouraging parents to come as well. We'll have resources for parents. We want parents to come, because if you think your young person is going to say to you, hey, I want to go to Silence the Shame, that's not happening.
That's right.
So you bring them. If you bring them, they're going to come because you're bringing them. So
right.
we need the parents to be involved as well and learn some information themselves about how they can help their kids or identify when there may be a mental health concern.
And there is so much information that was just displayed here. I wish we could just do like a whole, like you could just come back and this could just be a weekly show.
Hey, I will be happy to come back and talk about mental health all day. I am pro mental health, and let's get some policy, let's get some legislation, let's get it in our schools, let's get it in our churches. So whenever you want me to come back and talk to you about mental health, I am happy to.
And that's what I'm getting at, because there are so many people that may be watching that, we all have that need to
Absolutely.
be more smart
Everyone
about
can
our mental health.
benefit from this.
But everybody's not ready to go see a psychologist, or they have that, it costs in their mind. It costs too much. I don't need these folks in my business.
People are on different levels.
Right, but they still need that, so what can they do?
Well, first of all, I'm so glad you brought that up, because the providers that are going to be there Saturday, February 17th cover the gambit. So if you're worried about having insurance, we got you. There are providers in this community that see people on a sliding fee scale, and some that will see folks at no cost. So you don't ever have to worry about money being prohibitive in terms of mental health. Now, every place doesn't, so we need to let people know what places do so they won't be frustrated and get the runaround. The other piece of that is oftentimes we expect mental health providers to look a certain way or be really judgmental, and I think it's good for young people and their parents to see we're regular people. We're not odd looking, we're not perfect. Most of us have been to therapy ourselves, if not all of us. So we've been on the couch as well. And so there is no judgment, there is no shame when you come to get mental health services. This is a safe, supportive environment. And what I like about people coming to therapy is you don't have to see me again every day. And so you don't have to worry about this information coming back to slap you in the face somewhere. So you tell your loose lips friends or family members in your business is all out in the street. You don't have to worry about that with me.
Awesome. We're gonna definitely have you back. We're gonna definitely have you all back, because both of you and both of your organizations do so much in the community. If you don't know what Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Jack and Jill Incorporated does, they do a lot of great things. But again, mental health is huge. So silence the shame.
Silence the shame.
Now look, it's free.
That's right.
Yes.
It's helpful to you and me and everybody, and they have free lunch and food and snacks, so you don't have any excuse to not go.
That's
So
right.
we will see you Saturday, February 7th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And again, in all seriousness, this is something we need as a culture, as a people, as a city, as a community to move forward. So thank you for watching, and thank you for my guests for bringing this to us. This is Columbus Connections.